Outside our honeymoon suite at the Grand Coastal Resort, the ocean crashed against the shore in rhythmic waves. It was supposed to be romantic, the kind of beginning to married life that you see at movies. Instead, I was standing in the middle of our ridiculously expensive room, holding my phone and wondering if I should call my best friend Emma to tell her I had made a horrible mistake. Not because I didn't love Nathan. I did. At least I thought I did. But I'd known him for exactly 9 months. 9 months from our first date at that Italian restaurant in downtown Boston to standing at an altar in front of 150 people, promising forever to a man whose last name I'd only just taken. Too fast, Emma had said when I'd shown her the ring 3 months ago. Liz, you barely know this guy. When you know, I'd replied, parroting what Nathan always said. He was big on certainty, on decisive action. It was one of the things I'd loved about him. After years of dating men who couldn't commit to weekend plans, let alone a relationship, Nathan's confidence had been intoxicating. Now, standing in this hotel room listening to him sing off-key in the shower, I wondered if confidence and certainty were the same thing as honesty. The doubt had started during the ceremony. Small things, barely noticeable. The way Nathan had stumbled slightly over his vows, like he'd forgotten them, even that we'd practiced a dozen times. The way his hand had trembled when he slid the ring onto my finger. The look in his eyes during our first kiss as husband and wife. Not joy or love, but something that looked almost like relief. And then there was the weird moment during the reception when I'd overheard him on his phone in the hallway. "It's done," he said, his voice low and tense. "Yes, I'm sure. No, she doesn't suspect anything. I'll call you tomorrow with an update." When I'd asked who he was talking to, he'd smiled and said it was his boss, congratulating him on the wedding. But Nathan worked in finance, and his boss had been at the ceremony. I had met him. Why would he be calling? I'd pushed the thought away, told myself I was being paranoid. Wedding day jitters extended to the bride, too, apparently. The water shut off in the bathroom. I heard Nathan moving around, probably wrapping a towel around his waist, maybe checking his reflection in the mirror. He'd do that. He was vain about his appearance in a way I'd found charming at first and slightly annoying later. My phone was still in my hand. I should put it away, I thought. Open the champagne, wait for Nathan to come out, start our wedding night properly. Instead, I found myself moving toward his suitcase. It sat open on the luggage rack near the closet, already half unpacked. Nathan was organized like that, couldn't stand living out of a suitcase even for a few days. His clothes were neatly folded, toiletries arranged in a leather case, a book on international finance sitting on top. I shouldn't look through his stuff, I knew that. It was an invasion of privacy, the kind of thing that started marriages off on the wrong foot. But my hands were already moving, pushing aside the folded shirts, feeling along the bottom of the suitcase. Nothing. I was about to close it when my fingers caught on something, a zipper hidden in the lining. The bathroom door was still closed. I could hear Nathan humming now, taking his time. I unzipped the hidden compartment. Inside were passports. Not one, not two, but 8 different passports, all bound together with a rubber band. My heart started pounding as I pulled them out. The top one was American, navy blue, embossed with the golden eagle. I opened it. Nathan's photo stared at me, but the name underneath read Marcus Chen. The second passport was Canadian, same photo, different name, David Morrison. Third passport, British, James Sullivan. My hands were shaking now as I flipped through them. 8 passports total, 8 different names, 8 different nationalities. American, Canadian, British, Australian, Irish, New Zealand, South African, and French. All with Nathan's photo. All with entry and exit stamps from dozens of countries. And then I found the 9th passport, tucked into a separate pocket. This one was American, like his real one should be. But when I opened it, I saw my photo. My wedding photo, actually. The professional ones we'd taken a month ago for the wedding announcements. Someone had printed it in passport size and used it for official identification. But the name beneath my smiling face wasn't Elizabeth Harrison. It wasn't even Elizabeth Cross, my new married name. It read Sarah Chen. The bathroom door opened. "Babe, did you want to order room service or—" He stopped dead when he saw what I was holding. "Liz." I looked up at him. He was frozen in the doorway, towel wrapped around his waist, water still dripping from his hair. His face had gone completely pale. "What the hell are these?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Liz, I can explain." "I can explain. You have 8 passports? 8! With 8 different names, and there's one here with my photo and a name I've never heard of." I held up the Sarah Chen passport. "Start explaining." Nathan took a step into the room, his hands raised like I was a wild animal he was trying not to spook. Okay, just put those down and let's talk about this calmly." "Calmly? Are you f***ing serious right now?" I was still holding the passports, gripping them so tight my knuckles had gone white. "Who are you? Is Nathan even your real name?" "Yes, Nathan Cross is my real name. Those other passports, it's complicated." "Complicated," I laughed, and it sounded slightly hysterical even to my own ears. "Complicated."
"Liz, please, are you a spy? A criminal? Are you in witness protection? What possible explanation is there for having 8 fake passports?" Nathan closed his eyes briefly, and when he opened them again, there was something new in his expression, something that looked almost like resignation. "I'm not a spy," he said quietly, "and I'm not a criminal. Not exactly." "Not exactly?" "I'm a consultant for international clients. The nature of my work requires me to travel frequently and discreetly." "Discreetly?" I repeated the word like it tasted bad. "You mean illegally?" "I mean without attracting attention. Some of the countries I work in have complicated political situations. It's safer to have multiple identities." "And me?" I held up the Sarah Chen passport again. "Why do you have a fake passport with my face on it?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "That was for after the wedding, for our honeymoon." "We're on our honeymoon, right now, at a resort that I picked out, that we flew to using our real passports." "This honeymoon," Nathan said carefully, "was Plan B. The original plan was different." The room seemed to tilt slightly. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, still clutching the passports. What was the original plan? We were supposed to fly to Singapore, then take a private plane to Bangkok, and from there travel overland to a property I own in rural Thailand, under different names, as different people. Why? Nathan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Because I have business in Southeast Asia that requires discretion." Business. The word felt hollow. What kind of business requires fake passports and secret identities? The kind that pays extremely well? I stared at him. "You're a criminal." "I prefer to think of myself as someone who facilitates transactions between parties who can't always operate in official channels. That's literally the definition of a criminal." Nathan's expression hardened slightly. "Liz, you need to understand, the world isn't black and white. There are gray areas. There are people who need services that can't be provided through traditional means. I help them. By doing what? Smuggling? Money laundering? I move assets. Sometimes those assets are funds, sometimes they're goods, sometimes they're people who need to relocate quietly. I don't ask too many questions about why, and my clients pay me very, very well not to." My head was spinning. This couldn't be real. I'd married a man who was essentially a international smuggler or human trafficker or something equally terrible. "And you were going to bring me into this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Turn me into Sarah Chen and involve me in your illegal business?" No. Nathan moved closer, sitting down on the bed a few feet away from me. That's not why I married you, Liz. I married you because I love you. Bullshit. It's true. The passport with your photo, that was for insurance. In case something went wrong with my work, in case I needed to disappear quickly, I wanted to be able to bring you with me. How romantic. You wanted to make me an accessory to your crimes. I wanted to keep you safe. Nathan reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Liz, I know this looks bad. Looks bad? Nathan, this is insane. I don't even know what this is. You lied to me about everything. I didn't lie about loving you. How would I even know? How would I know what's real and what's just another one of your identities? Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Ask me anything you want to know. I'll tell you the truth. Is Nathan Cross even your real name?" "Yes." "Where are you from?" "Boston, born and raised." That part was true. "Your family? The parents I met at the wedding?" "Real. They don't know about my work. They think I'm a financial consultant, which is technically true in a sense." "How long have you been doing this? The fake passports, the illegal business?" Nathan rubbed his face. "About 6 years. I started after I got laid off from my job at the investment firm. I met someone who introduced me to this line of work. It was supposed to be temporary, just until I got back on my feet financially, but then you realized you could make more money doing shady shit than working an honest job? It's not that simple. It seems pretty simple to me. Liz, I'm not a bad person. I don't hurt people. I don't work with terrorists or drug cartels or anything like that. I move assets. Sometimes those assets are funds, sometimes they're goods, sometimes they're people who need to relocate quietly. I don't ask too many questions about why, and my clients pay me very, very well not to. It's illegal.
So is speeding, but you do that all the time. I stared at him. Did you seriously just compare tax evasion and smuggling to speeding? I'm just saying that legality and morality aren't always the same thing. And I'm just saying that I married someone I apparently don't know at all. I stood up, still holding the passports. I need to think. Liz, where are you going? I don't know. Away from you. Away from this. I grabbed my purse and my phone and headed for the door. Nathan stood up, the towel nearly slipping, and took a step toward me. "Don't," I said, my voice sharp. "Don't follow me. Don't call me. Just give me space to process this. We're on our wedding night. Our wedding night is over." I walked out of the room, letting the heavy door slam shut behind me. In the hallway, I stood for a moment, breathing hard, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I just discovered my husband of 6 hours, was some kind of international criminal with 8 fake identities and a secret life I'd known nothing about. And he'd created a fake identity for me, too. Sarah Chen? Who the hell was Sarah Chen supposed to be? I walked down the hallway in a daze, not really knowing where I was going. The resort was beautiful, all white walls and blue accents, potted palms and tasteful art. Other honeymooners passed me in the halls, holding hands and laughing, probably on their way to a romantic dinner or moonlit walk on the beach. I ended up in the hotel bar, which was blessedly quiet at 9 p.m. on a Sunday night. The bartender, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, took one look at me and said, "Rough day?" "You could say that." "What can I get you?" "Whatever's strongest." She poured me a double whiskey and set it down in front of me without comment. I drank half of it in one swallow and felt the burn all the way down. My phone buzzed. Nathan, of course. "Please come back. We need to talk about this." I ignored it and ordered another drink. Halfway through my second whiskey, Emma called. "Hey, how's married life? Are you having an amazing first night? Tell me it's romantic and perfect." I started crying. Liz, what's wrong? What happened?" Through tears and alcohol, I told her everything. The passports,
the fake names, Nathan's confession about his consulting business. Holy shit, Emma breathed when I finished. Liz, you need to get out of there. Right now. Pack your stuff and leave. And go where? We're at a beach resort. I can't exactly catch an Uber home to Boston. Then call the police. And tell them what? My husband has fake passports, but he says he's not doing anything that violent or evil. It's still illegal. I know that. But, Emma, if I report him, he goes to prison. And even though I'm furious and confused and hurt, I'm not sure I want that. Not yet. Not until I understand what's really going on. What's to understand? He's a criminal and he lied to you. I know. But what? But I married him. And some part of me must have loved him, or at least thought I did. And I need to know if any of it was real. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Okay, but Liz, be careful. If he's been lying about this, who knows what else he's lied about?" After I hung up with Emma, I sat at the bar for another hour, nursing my drinks and trying to make sense of my life. The bartender, whose name tag read Gloria, refilled my water glass without being asked. "Husband trouble?" she guessed. "Is it that obvious?" "Honey, I've worked in hotel bars for 30 years. I can spot marital problems from across the room." She leaned against the bar. "Want some unsolicited advice?" "Sure, why not?" "Whatever he did, and I'm guessing it's pretty bad from the look on your face, you have two choices. You can leave, or you can stay and work through it. There's no wrong answer, but there's also no middle ground. You can't half leave a marriage. What if I don't know which choice to make?"
Then flip a coin, and while it's in the air, you'll realize which side you're hoping for. I thought about that for a long moment. Then I paid my tab, thanked Gloria, and headed back to the room. Nathan was sitting on the bed when I came in, still in the towel, the passports spread out in front of him like he'd been studying them. "You came back," he said, relief evident in his voice. "For now." I closed the door behind me. "But we're going to talk about this. All of it. And if I don't like what I hear, I'm leaving. Tonight. I don't care if I have to sleep in the lobby." "Okay." Nathan gathered up the passports and set them aside. "Ask me anything." I sat down in the armchair across from the bed, maintaining distance between us. "How much of our relationship was real?" I asked. "When you met me, was I just part of some plan, some cover identity you needed?" "No." Nathan's voice was firm. "Meeting you was random. I was at that restaurant for a work meeting that got canceled. You were there having dinner with your friend. I saw you laugh, and I thought you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Everything between us has been real, Liz, I swear." "But you proposed after 3 months. We got married after 9. That's not normal, Nathan." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I proposed quickly because I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared that you'd find out who I really am and leave. I thought if we got married, if you loved me enough, maybe you'd understand. Maybe you'd accept this part of my life." That's manipulative as hell. "I know. I'm sorry." "What about the fake passport with my photo? When did you make that?" 2 months ago, right after you said yes to the wedding." "Why?" Nathan stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dark ocean. "I told you, it was insurance, in case something went wrong." "What could go wrong?" "Liz, the work I do, sometimes people don't like it. Governments, competitors, clients who feel cheated. I've made enemies, powerful ones. If something happened to me, if I needed to disappear, I wanted to be able to take you with me. Without asking me first? If I'd asked, you would have said no." "You're damn right I would have said no." Nathan turned back to face me. "I know this is a lot to take in. I know you're angry and confused. But Liz, I need you to understand. I love you.
I married you because I want to spend my life with you. The Sarah Chin passport was never about tricking you or forcing you into my world. It was about protecting you. By making me complicit in identity fraud? By giving us an escape route if we needed one. I shook my head. This is insane. You realize that, right? This whole thing is completely insane. I know. I don't even know what to do with this information. You don't have to do anything right now. Nathan took a cautious step toward me. We're on our honeymoon. We have 2 weeks at this resort. We can just try to enjoy it, pretend this conversation didn't happen. And when we get back to Boston, we can figure out what comes next. Pretend it didn't happen? I laughed bitterly. Nathan, I can't just unsee those passports. I can't unknow that you're some kind of international smuggler or whatever you are. Then we'll deal with it together. But right now, tonight, can we try to salvage something from this day? I looked at him. Really looked at him. He looked vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before, standing there in his towel with his guard completely down. This was the real Nathan, I realized. Not the confident businessman I'd fallen for, but this scared man who'd built his life on lies and was terrified of losing the one real thing he'd found. I need to know everything, I said finally. Not tonight, not all at once, but over the next 2 weeks, you need to tell me everything about your work, everything about your past. No more lies, no more secrets. Can you do that? Nathan nodded. Yes, I promise. And after I know everything, I'll decide what to do, stay or leave. No middle ground, like the bartender said. What bartender?
Never mind. I stood up. I'm going to take a shower. A long shower. When I come out, I want you dressed and I want that champagne open. We're going to try to pretend this is a normal honeymoon night, even though nothing about this is normal. Okay. Nathan's voice was soft. Liz? What? Thank you for coming back. I didn't respond, just went into the bathroom and locked the door behind me. Under the hot spray of the shower, I let myself cry properly for the first time. Not just about the passports, but about everything. About marrying someone I barely knew. About building a future on a foundation that turned out to be quicksand. About the fact that some part of me, despite everything, still loved him. Or loved who I thought he was. Maybe they were the same person, maybe they weren't. I had 2 weeks to figure it out. When I came out of the bathroom in the hotel robe, Nathan had dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. The champagne was open, 2 glasses poured. The passports were nowhere to be seen. I put them in the room safe, he said, gesturing toward the closet. I didn't want them out where you'd have to look at them. Thanks. He handed me a glass of champagne. We clinked glasses awkwardly, like strangers at a networking event. To honesty, Nathan said, moving forward. To honesty, I echoed, and drank. The champagne was expensive and perfectly chilled and tasted like the most complicated beginning to a marriage anyone had ever had. Outside, the ocean continued its endless rhythm against the shore, indifferent to the drama playing out in room 412. And somewhere in that locked safe, 8 fake identities waited like ghosts, reminding me that the man I'd married was someone I still had to learn to know.
Day 2 of my honeymoon began with Nathan ordering room service breakfast while I pretended to sleep. I'd actually been awake for an hour, staring at the ceiling and wondering how my life had become a spy thriller in the space of 24 hours. I know you're awake, Nathan said softly from across the room. You breathe differently when you're really asleep. I opened my eyes. He was sitting in the armchair by the window, coffee in hand, wearing shorts and a linen shirt. He looked like a normal man on a normal vacation, which felt surreal given what I now knew. You said you'd tell me everything, I said, sitting up. Start talking. Nathan set down his coffee. What do you want to know first? The basics. When did this start? How did you get into this business? He was quiet for a moment, organizing his thoughts. Then he began.
6 years ago, I was working at Stratford Investments. Good job, decent money, boring as hell. Then the company restructured and I got laid off along with 200 other people. I had rent to pay, student loans, credit card debt. I started taking contract work wherever I could find it. Consulting gigs, freelance financial analysis, anything to stay afloat. Okay, I said, pulling the blanket around myself like armor. One of those gigs was for a client who needed help moving money between countries. Legal money, but complicated because of tax structures and international banking regulations. I did it, made it work, got paid well. That client referred me to another client, and then another. Word spread that I was discreet and effective. And at what point did it become illegal? Nathan grimaced. There wasn't one moment. It was gradual. A client would ask if I could help with something slightly outside normal channels. Then another client would ask for something a bit more questionable. Each time I told myself it was just one more job to get me through another month. But the money was good, really good. And after a while, I realized I was making more in 1 week than I'd made in 3 months at my legitimate job. So you became a criminal for the money. I became a criminal because I was good at it, and it paid well, and I convinced myself I wasn't really hurting anyone. He met my eyes. I'm not proud of that rationalization, but it's the truth. Room service knocked on the door. Nathan answered it, tipping the server generously, and wheeled the cart over to the small table by the window. Scrambled eggs, toast, fruit, more coffee. My stomach turned at the smell. I can't eat right now, I said. You need to eat something. Don't tell me what I need. Okay, fair enough. I wrapped the robe tighter around myself. Keep going. Tell me about the passports. About 3 years ago, I started getting more international clients, people who needed services that required travel. Sometimes I'd need to move things across borders, documents, hard drives with encrypted data, sometimes physical cash. It became clear that traveling under my real name was attracting attention. Customs would pull me aside for random searches that weren't random at all. So I got my first alternate passport. How does someone just get a fake passport? It's not that hard if you know the right people. There are forgers who specialize in it. The really good ones make documents that are virtually indistinguishable from legitimate ones. They cost anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 each, depending on the country and quality. I did the math in my head. So you spent over $100,000 on fake identification? Closer to $90,000. And I've made that back many times over. Jesus, Nathan. I told you I'd be honest. I poured myself coffee with shaking hands. What about the Sarah Chen passport? Walk me through that. Why did you make it? Nathan hesitated. You're not going to like this answer. I don't like any of this. Answer the question. I made it because I love you, and I knew that eventually you'd find out what I do. And when you did, I was afraid you'd leave me. This Sarah Chen passport was a fantasy, I guess, a backup plan, where we could run away together and start over somewhere else, somewhere no one knew either of us. That's insane. I know. And incredibly presumptuous. What made you think I'd even want to run away with you? Nothing. It was irrational and stupid and selfish, but Liz, when you really love someone and you're terrified of losing them, you do irrational things. You create escape plans. You try to control outcomes you can't control. I stared into my coffee. He wasn't wrong about that last part. How many times had I tried to control uncontrollable situations? How many backup plans had I made for relationships that ended anyway? Tell me about the work itself, I said, changing the subject. What exactly do you do for these clients? Nathan took a breath. It varies. Sometimes I move money. helping wealthy individuals transfer funds to offshore accounts or setting up shell corporations for asset protection. Sometimes I move goods, art, antiquities, sometimes technology or data that clients don't want traced. And sometimes I help people relocate. People? What kind of people?
People who need to disappear. Maybe they're fleeing abusive situations. Maybe they're whistleblowers who need new identities. Maybe they're wealthy individuals who want to fake their deaths for insurance purposes. I provide documentation and logistics to make it happen. So you're a human trafficker? No. Nathan's voice was sharp. Human trafficking implies coercion and exploitation. Everyone I've helped has hired me voluntarily. They're paying for a service. An illegal service. Yes. I set down my coffee cup. Have you ever hurt anyone? No. Never. Have you ever worked for anyone who hurt people? Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Not directly, but I can't always know what my clients do with the services I provide. I've moved money for people who might have been involved in illegal activities. I've helped people relocate who might not have been entirely honest about why they needed to disappear. That's not exactly reassuring. I know. But Liz, I do have lines I won't cross. I don't work with drug cartels. I don't work with anyone involved in violent crime. I don't move weapons. I don't help anyone who I suspect is involved in human trafficking or child exploitation. Those are hard boundaries. How noble of you. I'm not claiming to be noble. I'm claiming to have some ethical standards, even if they're not conventional ones. I stood up and walked to the window. The beach was already filling up with tourists, families building sandcastles, couples walking hand in hand, normal people living normal lives. What happens now? I asked, not turning around. Do you just keep doing this? Forever? I don't know. I've been thinking about getting out, actually. I've made enough money to retire comfortably. I could go back to legitimate work, maybe start my own consulting firm doing legal financial planning. Why haven't you? Because it's addictive. Not the money exactly, but the challenge. The puzzle of moving pieces around without being detected. The thrill of successfully completing a difficult job. It's hard to give that up. I finally turned to face him. Nathan, you need to understand something. I can't be married to someone who's actively committing crimes. I can't live my life looking over my shoulder, wondering when the FBI is going to kick down our door. That's not the life I signed up for. I know. So you need to decide, right now, today, are you going to get out of this business or not? Nathan stood up, crossing the room to stand in front of me. If getting out means keeping you, then yes, I'll get out. I'll finish the contracts I'm currently committed to, and then I'm done. How long will that take? 3 months, maybe 4. And what happens to the clients you're currently working with? I'll refer them to other people who do what I do. The network is big enough that they'll find someone else. I studied his face, trying to determine if he was telling the truth or just telling me what I wanted to hear. I want proof. I want to see you actively shutting down your operation. I want to know when each job is finished. I want transparency. Okay. And you need to get rid of the fake passports. All of them, including Sarah Chen. His jaw tightened. Liz, those are worth $90,000. I don't care. They're evidence of crimes. They need to be destroyed. If I destroy them, I can't use them to exit the business properly. Some of my current contracts require travel under assumed names. Then destroy them when the contracts are complete. Okay, I promise. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But trust, once broken, doesn't just magically repair itself. I need some air, I said. I'm going for a walk. Want company? No. I changed into shorts and a t-shirt and left Nathan in the room. The beach was warm and bright, the sand hot under my bare feet. I walked for what felt like miles, processing everything he told me. My phone rang. Emma. Tell me you left him.
she said without preamble. I'm still here. Liz, he's getting out. He promised to shut down his illegal business within 4 months and go back to legitimate work. And you believe him? I want to. That's not the same as believing him. I sat down on the sand, watching waves crash against the shore. Emma, I know this is crazy. I know I should probably just leave. But he was honest with me last night. Completely honest. Even when it made him look terrible. That has to count for something. Or he's a skilled liar who knows exactly what to say to keep you hooked. Maybe. But what if he's not? What if this is real? Emma sighed. Just promise me you'll be careful, and if anything else sketchy happens, you'll call me immediately. I promise.
After I hung up, I sat on the beach for another hour, thinking. Nathan had built a life on lies and illegal activities, but he'd also been willing to confess everything when I'd found the passports. He could have lied, could have made up some story about the passports being props for work or souvenirs or anything. Instead, he told me the truth, knowing it might destroy our marriage. That had to mean something. When I got back to the room, Nathan was on his laptop, typing quickly. He closed it when I came in. "What was that?" I asked. "Email to a client, telling them I'm wrapping up my contracts and won't be taking new jobs." "Can I see it?" Nathan reopened the laptop and turned it toward me. The email was exactly what he'd said. Professional, brief, announcing his retirement from consulting services, effective in 4 months. "You really are getting out," I said softly. "I told you I would." I sat down on the bed. "Nathan, I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay." "If I hadn't found those passports last night, would you have ever told me? Or would you have just kept lying and living this double life forever?" Nathan closed the laptop and came to sit beside me. "Honestly, I don't know. I'd been thinking about telling you for months. Every time we talked about our future, about buying a house or having kids, I'd think, I need to tell her. She deserves to know. But I was terrified that telling you would mean losing you. So you were just going to wait until what? Until I found out on my own? Until you got arrested? Until what?" "I don't know. I was a coward. I am a coward. At least that's honest." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Nathan said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you love me? Still? After everything?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "I love the man I thought you were. And I think I might be able to love the real you, the one who's been honest with me. But I don't know yet. I need time to figure out who you actually are versus who I imagined you to be." "That's fair. But Nathan, if you lie to me again about anything, I'm gone. I don't care how much I love you or how long we've been married. One more lie and this is over." "Understood." Over the next 2 weeks, Nathan told me everything about his clients, his contacts, his methods. He showed me encrypted communications, explained his financial structures, walked me through exactly how he'd built his illegal empire. It was simultaneously fascinating and horrifying. Some of his work was relatively benign, helping rich people avoid taxes, facilitating international art sales that skirted import regulations. Other aspects were more troubling, helping people fake their deaths, creating entirely new identities for individuals with questionable pasts. "This guy here," I said one afternoon, looking at an encrypted message from a client, "you helped him fake his death?
Doesn't he have a family? Kids? He has an ex-wife and 2 adult children. The insurance payout went to them. They're financially set for life. But they think he's dead. They grieve for him. And he gets to start over somewhere else, away from gambling debts and criminal associates who wanted him dead for real. That doesn't make it right. I know, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just explaining the reasoning. These conversations happened over romantic dinners, during beach walks, while lounging by the pool. It was the strangest honeymoon imaginable. Learning about international crime while sipping piña coladas and getting sunburned. On our last night at the resort, we had dinner on our balcony overlooking the ocean. Nathan had ordered champagne and dessert, trying to make it special. "So," he said, raising his glass, "what's the verdict? Are you staying or leaving?" I'd been thinking about this question for 2 weeks straight. I'd analyzed it from every angle, made lists of pros and cons, called Emma at least a dozen times for advice. "I'm staying," I said finally. "For now. Conditional on you actually following through with shutting down your business."
Relief flooded Nathan's face. "Thank you. I swear, Liz, I won't let you down. You better not." We clinked glasses, and this time it felt less awkward than our first toast had been. "There's one more thing I need to tell you," Nathan said. My stomach dropped. "What?" "It's not bad. At least, I don't think it is. But remember how I said I had some contracts to finish?" "Yes." "One of them requires me to travel to Singapore next month, for about a week." "Under which name?" "James Sullivan, the British passport." I set down my champagne. "Nathan, I know it's not ideal, but it's the last international job I've committed to. After this, everything else can be handled remotely." "Can I come with you as Sarah Chen?" "No," Nathan's voice was firm. "Absolutely not. I'm not dragging you into this world any more than I already have. You'll stay in Boston. I'll go to Singapore as James, and when I come back, that identity gets destroyed. Promise?" "Promise." We returned to Boston to resume our normal lives, which felt anything but normal now. On the surface, everything looked the same. Our apartment in Back Bay, Nathan's home office where he worked remotely, Sunday brunches with friends who had no idea they were dining with a criminal. But underneath, I was constantly anxious. Every time Nathan's phone rang with an unknown number, I wondered if it was a client. Every time he took a call in his office with the door closed, I imagined him planning illegal schemes. And I was watching him, carefully, looking for any sign that he was lying to me again. 3 weeks after we returned from our honeymoon, Nathan announced he was leaving for Singapore. "It's just 5 days," he said, packing clothes into a carry-on. "I'll call you every night." "Be careful," I said, and meant it, despite everything. Always am. I watched him pull out the James Sullivan passport from the safe, where it had been living alongside the others since our wedding night. He'd been true to his word. 2 of his other fake identities had already been destroyed after their associated contracts finished. Only James Sullivan and 3 others remained. "When you come back, that one gets destroyed too, right?" "Right." He kissed me goodbye, and I spent the next 5 days anxiously checking my phone, waiting for him to call, half expecting a police officer to show up at my door to tell me my husband had been arrested in Singapore. But Nathan called every night like he'd promised, telling me about his meetings, asking about my day, sounding every bit like a normal businessman on a normal business trip. On the 5th night, his call came an hour later than usual. "Sorry," he said when I answered. "The meeting ran long, but it's done. Contract complete. I'm flying home tomorrow." "Thank God." "Miss me?" "More than I thought I would. That's the most romantic thing you've said to me in weeks." I laughed despite myself. "Don't let it go to your head." "Too late." When Nathan came home the next day, he looked exhausted but relieved.
He pulled the James Sullivan passport from his bag and handed it to me. "Honor system, you get to destroy it." I took the passport to the kitchen, turned on the gas stove, and held the document over the flame. It caught quickly, the pages curling and blackening, James Sullivan's face distorting and disappearing. Nathan watched from the doorway. 1 down, 3 to go.
Over the next 2 months, the remaining fake identities met similar fates. David Morrison burned in the fireplace. Marcus Chen went through the shredder. By early December, only 2 passports remained: Nathan's real one and the Sarah Chen document with my photo. "This one's harder," Nathan admitted, holding the Sarah Chen passport. "It feels like destroying a safety net." "It's destroying evidence of a crime," I corrected. "That too." We burned it together, watching my fake identity disappear in flames. That night, I felt like I could breathe properly for the first time since our wedding night. Nathan was really getting out. He was really choosing our life together over his criminal enterprise. Then, on a Tuesday in mid-December, everything fell apart. I was at work when my phone rang with an unknown number. I normally didn't answer those, but something made me pick up. "Is this Elizabeth Cross?" A woman's voice, professional and cold. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Special Agent Melissa Torres with the FBI. I'm calling to inform you that your husband, Nathan Cross, is currently being detained for questioning regarding multiple counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and identity fraud." The room tilted. "What?" "We've been investigating your husband's activities for the past 8 months. We'd like you to come down to our field office to answer some questions." "Am I under arrest?" "Not at this time, but we do need to speak with you." I hung up and immediately tried calling Nathan. His phone went straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking as I gathered my things and told my boss I had a family emergency. The FBI field office was in Chelsea, a bland government building that looked exactly like what you'd imagine an FBI office to look like. Agent Torres met me in the lobby, a woman in her 40s with short dark hair and sharp eyes that reminded me of a bird of prey. "Thank you for coming in voluntarily, Mrs. Cross. Where's my husband?" "Being questioned in another part of the building, if you'll follow me." She led me to a small interview room with a table, 2 chairs, and a recording device prominently displayed. "Am I under arrest?" I asked again. "Not at this time, but we do need to speak with you." I sat down. "What do you want to know?" "Let's start with the basics. How long have you known about your husband's illegal activities?" "Since our wedding night, 3 months ago." Agent Torres's eyebrows rose. "Your wedding night?" "I found his fake passports in his luggage. He confessed to everything." "And you didn't report it?" No, I didn't." "Why not?" "Because he's my husband. Because he promised to get out of the business. Because I wanted to believe he could change." Agent Torres made notes on a legal pad. "Did he get out?" "Yes. He finished his existing contracts and shut everything down. He destroyed all his fake identities. He stopped taking clients." "That's not entirely accurate." Agent Torres pulled out a folder and laid several documents on the table. "These are financial transactions from 2 weeks ago. Large sums of money moving through shell corporations your husband controls. These are encrypted communications from last week between your husband and known criminals. This is security footage showing your husband entering a building in downtown Boston that's under surveillance for suspected money laundering operations." I stared at the documents, feeling sick. "No, that's not possible. He promised."
Your husband has been lying to you, Mrs. Cross. He never stopped his illegal activities. He just thought better at hiding them from you. I don't believe you. We have 8 months of evidence. We have informants. We have recorded conversations. Your husband is going to prison, Mrs. Cross. The only question is whether you're going with him. My blood ran cold. I didn't do anything illegal. You knew about his crimes and didn't report them. That's accessory after the fact at minimum. And there's the matter of the Sarah Chin passport. How do you know about that? We've been monitoring your husband very closely. We know about all 8 fake identities, including the one with your photo. I destroyed that months ago. So you admit it existed?
I realized too late that I'd just confessed to knowledge of identity fraud. I think I need that lawyer now, I said. Agent Torres stood. Smart decision. But Mrs. Cross, think carefully about what you want to say when that lawyer gets here. If you cooperate with us, help us build a stronger case against your husband, we might be willing to overlook your involvement. But if you protect him, you'll go down with him. She left me alone in the interview room. I put my head in my hands and tried not to cry. The lawyer I called was expensive, Rebecca Morrison, a criminal defense attorney Emma's firm had referred me to. She arrived within an hour, all business in her power suit and severe bun. Don't say anything else to them, she instructed before we met with Agent Torres again. Not a single word without my approval. The next few hours were a blur of questions, answers carefully filtered through Rebecca, and mounting evidence that Nathan had been lying to me for months. He hadn't shut down his business. He'd expanded it. He hadn't destroyed all his fake identities. He'd made new ones. He hadn't chosen our marriage over his criminal empire. He'd just gotten better at hiding the empire from me. Finally, Agent Torres laid out her offer. Here's the deal. You testify against your husband. You tell us everything he told you about his business, operations, his clients, his methods. In exchange, we give you full immunity. You walk away from this without charges. And if I don't, we charge you as an accessory. You serve time alongside your husband. I looked at Rebecca. What do I do? That's your decision, she said carefully. But from a legal standpoint, taking the immunity deal is the smart choice. And from a moral standpoint, that's above my pay grade. I thought about Nathan, about our wedding vows made just 3 months ago, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health. Did those vows still count when they were built on lies? I need to talk to Nathan. Before I decide anything, I need to talk to him. Agent Torres considered this. 5 minutes, supervised. That's all you get. They brought Nathan into a different room. He looked terrible, exhausted, pale, his hair disheveled. He was wearing the same clothes he'd left the house in that morning, and there were dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me, relief flooded his face. Liz, thank God. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? Did you lie to me? I asked, my voice deadly calm. These past 3 months, did you lie about shutting down your business? Nathan's expression crumbled. Liz, yes or no, Nathan, did you lie? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, so soft I almost couldn't hear him, yes. The admission hurt more than I expected. Some part of me had still been hoping Agent Torres was wrong, that this was all a misunderstanding. Why? I asked, my voice breaking. Why would you promise to get out and then keep lying? Because I'm weak. Because I'm addicted to the work. Because I convinced myself I could do both, keep you and keep the business. I thought I could hide it from you, that you'd never have to know. Well, I know now, and the FBI knows, and they want me to testify against you. Nathan's face went white. What? They're offering me immunity in exchange for testimony.
Everything I know about your operation, your clients, your methods. I either cooperate with them or I go to prison as your accessory. Don't do it. Nathan reached across the table like he wanted to grab my hands, but the supervising agent stopped him. Liz, please, don't testify against me. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't. Because I love you. Because we're married. Because nothing. I stood up, anger finally breaking through the shock. You lied to me, Nathan. You looked me in the eye every single day and lied. You let me believe you were getting out, that you were choosing me, and all along you were just getting better at hiding your crimes. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Nathan stood too. Liz, if you testify against me, I'll go to prison for years, maybe decades. Is that what you want? What I want is to have never found those passports. What I want is to have married someone honest. What I want is to go back in time and make different choices. But I can't do any of that. So what are you going to do? I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man I'd married 3 months ago. The man who'd promised to love and cherish me. The man who turned out to be someone I didn't know at all. I'm going to save myself, because apparently that's something you never planned to do. I walked out of the room without looking back. Rebecca was waiting for me in the hallway. Have you made your decision? Yes. Tell Agent Torres I'll cooperate. Full immunity in writing, and then I'll tell them everything Nathan told me. Are you sure?
No, but I'm doing it anyway. Over the next 3 weeks, I spent hours with FBI agents, telling them everything I knew about Nathan's operation, the fake passports, the shell corporations, the clients he'd mentioned, the methods he'd used. I held nothing back. It felt like betraying him. It also felt like the only way to survive. Nathan was charged with 17 counts of fraud, money laundering, and identity crimes. His trial was set for March. I filed for divorce in January. The divorce papers were delivered to Nathan at the federal detention center where he was being held without bail. He signed them without contesting anything. We'd been married for 4 months. On a cold day in February, the divorce was finalized. I got to keep my maiden name. I'd never really gotten used to being Elizabeth Cross, anyway. Nathan got to keep his prison sentence, which was looking like 15 to 20 years based on what the prosecutors were saying. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I just felt empty. Emma took me out for drinks to celebrate the divorce. You did the right thing, she said, raising her glass. He was a criminal and a liar. You're better off without him. Then why don't I feel better off? Because you loved him. And love doesn't just disappear because someone turns out to be a terrible person. I loved who I thought he was. Maybe. Or maybe you loved who he actually was. And that's even more complicated. I drank my wine and thought about that. Had I loved the real Nathan, the criminal, the liar, the man with 8 fake identities? Or had I loved the illusion he'd created, the confident businessman who'd swept me off my feet? I still didn't know. Nathan's trial happened in March. I didn't attend, but I watched the news coverage. He pleaded guilty to most of the charges in a deal that reduced his sentence to 12 years. When the verdict was read, the cameras caught him looking toward the gallery, like he was searching for someone. For me, maybe. But I wasn't there. I was home, packing up the last of his belongings from our apartment, preparing to move on with my life. In the bottom of his desk drawer, I found one final passport. Not one of the fake ones, those had all been destroyed or confiscated by the FBI. This one was real, but old, from before we'd met. I opened it and saw a much younger Nathan staring back at me. 26 years old, fresh-faced, innocent-looking, before he'd become James Sullivan or David Morrison or any of the other identities he'd created. Just Nathan Cross, the man he'd been before he'd built his life on lies. That's who I'd wanted to marry, I realized. Not the criminal, not the liar, but the man who might have existed if he'd made different choices. I closed the passport and added it to the box of his belongings that I'd arranged to be delivered to his mother. And then I closed that chapter of my life and started trying to figure out who Elizabeth Harrison was supposed to be now. That was 3 years ago. I still think about Nathan sometimes, about the wedding that ended with the discovery of 8 passports and a truth I hadn't wanted to believe, about the honeymoon, where I'd learned exactly who I'd married, about the choice I had made to testify against him, to save myself, even if it meant destroying him. I don't know if I made the right choice. I know I made the only choice I could live with. Last month, I got a letter from Nathan, forwarded through his lawyer because there's a restraining order preventing direct contact. Dear Liz, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness or your time, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry for lying, for dragging you into my world, for not being the man you thought you were marrying. I've had a lot of time to think in here about who I was and who I wanted to be, about the choices I made and why I made them, about you and how badly I screwed up the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm getting out in 9 years if I maintain good behavior. When I do, I'm going to do things differently. No more lies, no more fake identities, just me, Nathan Cross, trying to build an honest life. I don't expect you to wait for me. I don't even expect you to care. But I wanted you to know that loving you was the only real thing in a life full of lies. And I'm sorry I didn't realize that until it was too late. Nathan. I read the letter 3 times, then burned it, watching his words disappear in flames just like all those fake passports had. Some people might think I should forgive him, that 12 years in prison is punishment enough, that everyone deserves a second chance. Maybe they're right, but I've learned that trust, once broken, doesn't heal just because time passes, and love, no matter how real it felt, isn't enough when it's built on deception. Nathan Cross will get out of prison eventually. He'll rebuild his life, hopefully honestly this time. He'll become someone new, or maybe he'll finally become who he was supposed to be all along. But I won't be part of that story. I'm building my own story now, one where the only person I have to trust is myself, where the only identity I need is the one I was born with. Elizabeth Harrison, no fake passports required. And maybe someday I'll meet someone new, someone who doesn't have 8 identities hidden in their luggage, someone who doesn't need backup plans and escape routes and fake names to feel secure. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just live my life, trusting my own choices, making my own way. Either way, I'll be okay. Because the person I am now, the person who survived discovering those passports on her wedding night, who made the hard choice to testify, who rebuilt her life from the ashes of a 4-month marriage, she's stronger than she ever knew she could be. And she doesn't need anyone else's identity to know who she is.